This is Karen with NewClevelandRadio.net, and it is time for The Rant with Barbara Rose Brooker. Hi, Barbara.
Karen, good to see you.
Absolutely. So it's another Wednesday, time for The Rant.
Great.
What are we going to rant about and with who?
We have a fabulous rant today. You know, I wrote things down about this guest we have that were really important, but I decided I'm just going to rant about him. So, listeners, listen, you're going to meet a very fabulous, world famous personal injury lawyer who, in our culture of racism and injustice, all his life has been fighting for justice. He has fought for kids who became paraplegic, victims of DUIs, and many other cases all his life. But dreams come true in the middle of all of this. 28 years ago, James Bostwick, personal injury lawyer, and now a best selling author, he decided that he was going to write about justice and injustice. And his novel, oh my God, Acts of Omission, which we're going to talk about, is a runaway bestseller now and a potential movie, a movie in development. And here we are in the midst of COVID, Jim, if I can call you Jim. In the midst of the COVID, dreams are coming true. There is beauty in everything. And with all he has to do in fighting for justice all the time and has a family and everything, he now has this bestseller. So I'm introducing James Bostwick, and I want to ask you the first question, which is 28 years ago, and here you're fighting for justice. What inspired you, Jim, to spend all these years writing this very enormous book? This is an enormous book. This is a book that you just don't buy and put down and read for summer reading. This is one of those masterpieces you keep on your shelf, and the world is seeing that. He also, one other thing, is up for the Harper Lee Award because of this book. So Jim, I'm introducing Jim, and that's the first question, and want to hear what you have to say.
Well, thank you, Barbara. Uh, 28 years ago, yes. Why did I take this on? Well, I love to read. Like you, I'm a voracious reader, and of course, because of what I do as a trial lawyer, I like to read about legal books, legal thrillers and things like that. Although I read lots of other things as well. But I was always kind of frustrated when I read legal thrillers that they, well, number one, they were not very authentic. They really didn't paint the law and what happens in the law like it really is out there in reality. And also, the thing that bothered me is that they're almost all about criminal cases. And of course, that's an important part of our society and an important thing for people to understand. And the folks that do that work do wonderful work on both sides. But and we do there are a lot more civil lawyers out there that are doing things to help people that are having trouble with their families or having trouble with their businesses, or they've been injured and they need somebody to try to help make something in their life be better. And those lawyers out there are not written about. And when they are, it's with tongue in cheek, and they're called ambulance chasers and things like that. Which, of course, and there are folks like that out there, like in any profession. There are a few bad apples. But most of the civil lawyers out there are working really hard, taking a lot of risks, and nobody really hears about what they do. And I wanted to write about that.
Hmm.
That was my goal. And and it just seemed like that was something that I thought people needed to hear about. So that's kind of what inspired me.
Absolutely. In fact, I don't really know of any other books that talk about this injustice. People who are injured, as you say, and then they have to live these terrible lives without any help or financial help. So it really is a quest and a journey for you. But Jim, now with the book, with such success with this book, and when I say success, people who are moved by the book, not only by the writing, but by the message in it. There's one line in the book, well, there's many lines that I underline, but there's one line where Matt, the protagonist, says, the case is a possibility. And I thought, that's so you, that's so what your work is, the possibility of things and taking risk at any age. So I want to know, in the midst of this tragedy we're all living in, this pandemic, where you talk about courtroom drama and trials, how are you fighting the justice now without the jury? Or what do you do?
Well, that's a major problem. It's probably the first time in my lifetime, and probably the first time ever in the civil justice system in America, where no matter what the crisis, I mean, even in world wars, the justice system has not ground to a halt. Here, the pandemic has caused it to grind to a halt. We are unable to seat juries. We have never been unable to seat juries. Lawsuits, in the end, are what a jury decides they are. Unless it's a case going to be decided by a judge, and some cases are, we have a right under the Constitution to a trial by jury, both sides. And both sides want that because they realize juries make sensible decisions. They bring 12 people together, depending on the makeup in different counties and different states. Usually it's 12 people, and they pool their common sense and their understanding of life, and they come up with something that's more sensible usually than any individual judge or even a panel of judges could come up with. It's a remarkable system, but it only works if you can impanel a jury safely. And we haven't been able to do that now for many months. And there's questions about when we'll be able to do it and how we'll be able to do it. And that has caused the system, the thing that pushes everything forward is, when can we have our trial? And if we can have our trial, if it's next month or next week, then maybe we should talk about resolution and perhaps we could settle the case. But if we can't have a trial, how can we get to the point where we can be sensible about resolving the case?
So now you're fighting for justice in that way. You're fighting still and taking risk for justice. So getting back to the book, how has this book affected your life? Besides being a personal injury lawyer, here you are now, this novelist who is in demand. And what are you going to do? What's happening with the book? That's what I'm going to ask you. Tell us, because dreams come true. And what happens now?
Well, actually, it's pretty amazing. The first edition has sold out. The hardbound has sold out. And we just rolled out the paperback edition, which is a beautiful rendition. I mean, it's not just a little paperback. It's a big, it looks almost like a hardbound.
Beautiful.
And that just happened. And of course, it got nominated for the Harper Lee Legal Fiction Award in 2020.
Congratulations.
That's an amazing, wonderful honor.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, and the Audible book is going crazy. That's another thing. I never even had listened to an Audible book myself, although I know many people love them. And so the first book I ever listened to on Audible was my own. and Roger Wayne did a beautiful job. He was a wonderful narrator, and he
Oh,
did
it's
various voices and things. It was,
so alive.
and it's has 400 reviews, and they're mostly all 5
Yeah.
stars. Quite
Oh,
amazing.
fantastic. So what made, when you decided to write this book, okay, did you use your experiences? Because I haven't read it yet, okay? I ordered it last night. Um, but did you use your experiences in the legal field to create this novel?
Oh, sure. Well, yes, many of the things, I mean, actually, it's loosely based on an actual case I tried back in the 80s for 9 weeks in San Francisco. And it is, of course, it's highly fictionalized version of that case, of course, but it's very real in the sense that the things that happen in it have happened to me. Not all of them, of course, but some of them have happened to me in the course of my practice as a trial lawyer. And of course, the other fun thing is that some of them never happen to me, and I get to make them up, and they come
Yep.
out of my head. They are pure fiction. And what I love about this process, what I learned about it, is that when you're writing, I'd never written anything like this before. You know, I'd written briefs. And of course, when you write a brief, you have to tell a story for a judge to make the judge interested. So I kind of
Indeed.
understood that. But this is a different process, writing a dialogue and everything. But what I found is that these people that I had created developed a life of their own. They started doing things I had never thought they would do. It was coming out, you know, like they were real little people. I found myself in the shower and then dreaming at night, wondering what was going to happen to them. And I thought, wait a minute, they're in your head. You can do whatever you want with them, but no, they do what they want.
The muse took over, and
Yeah.
the male protagonist, Matt, are you very much like him, or is he very much like you?
Well, I think there's many things, of course. I mean, because he's modeled on me, and he's modeled, and he uses his approach to cases and his approach to the law. But there are a lot of things that Matt did that I was kind of shocked at, you know, and didn't do. And so he's not all me. He's kind of his own person, and I can't wait to see what he does in the next book
In the movie.
and in the movie.
And
Yes.
in the movie, yes. Your book translates visually so gorgeously that I could see the movie. So that'll be interesting as well. But now what you're going through as a lawyer now, I'm thinking, does that inform your fight for justice? What I mean is we're in such a fight in so many ways, against racism, against anti-disabilities, anti-ageism. I mean, we're fighting against ageism, we're fighting for disability. Does it inform you, this book, the success of this book, and in your practice to approach justice in a new way, since you don't have the jury behind you right now?
Well, I think it does in the sense that what the book taught me is that coming out of nowhere, like the phoenix out of the ashes. I mean, here comes a book that I had no idea I could write, and I did,
Mhm.
uh, and and somehow it developed. I mean, with a lot of editing and a lot of help and a lot of ideas with a lot of people and some very very good instruction.
Mhm.
I have to say back in the day. Um, uh, as you well know. Um,
You
the
did it. You wrote it.
I wrote it, but you were my instructor.
Well,
We met back there 28 years ago, and I would never have been able to do it without the extraordinary help that you gave me back
that
then.
is so nice. Now I can, when I leave the planet, I can write those words to my kids can look at this podcast. And hear them. Thank you, Jim.
It's amazing. Really, you inspired. I mean, I thought it was a joke when my wife Marty signed us up for a class at how to write your first novel over the age of 40, and lo and behold,
Marty's so fabulous too, and was a fabulous writer and is a fabulous photographer.
well,
So
everybody in the class agreed she was the best writer by far. Unfortunately, she didn't keep at it, but she loves her photography.
yeah, she's good too.
The book has the cover is her photography
Gorgeous.
and artistic rendering of it.
It's beautiful. I'm gonna hold it up so everyone can. There it is. I mean, look at that cover. That's gorgeous. That's San Francisco. Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool.
So well, I think that the fascinating thing about this terrible thing we're going through, which is the thing that I find so difficult about it is how many people are being so devastated, not only physically by getting the illness, but by being unable to work, being unable to pay their rent, being unable to take care of their children, all the folks in the travel industry and the service industry and the hotels and the restaurants and so many people that had good jobs and now don't are having trouble making ends meet. Uh, it's such a devastating thing. But one of the things that I feel comes out of this is that it's a time where we really have to rethink ourselves. We have to rethink how we approach each other. We have to pull together. We have to, in some ways, it's a pulling apart that is making us realize we have to pull together. The polarization of our country that preceded this is, of course, dramatic. And now we have all this going on, and we'll never get through it unless we pull together. And it's an opportunity.
Yes.
I see it as an opportunity because people can think anew. They can think fresh ideas. Like with us, how do we sit a jury? What are we going to do? Are we going to have it on TV like a movie, where you're in different rooms and you're all, or are you going to have masks where I try to pick a juror and I can't see what their expression is?
Yes.
Or should we go and put tents out in parks, big tents, and have people separated and have people, get together that way and pick a jury that way? We have to be innovative in our thinking. That same kind of innovation can go into other walks of life now on how we treat each other, how we help people that are suffering, people that are not being treated with justice, in our society.
I think what you said is so important, and I hope the listeners are listening, because our country is so segregated and so divided right now, and so cruel in so many areas. And this is a chance to, when we leave the virtual life, to transform to a life where we're people all respecting each other. I don't know if it's going to happen in my time, but I hope it happens in the future. And you're definitely leading the way, Jim, not only through your work, but through your novel too. Because again, you talk about possibilities in the novel and risking everything for justice. And that very, very, very thing, that seed of risking everything for justice, is what you're talking about and what it's about and what the book is about. So how are you now? I'm sure you're sequestered too. Yeah, unless you're out there wearing a mask and doing what you need to do. You're home most of the time, Zooming, like the rest of us. How, for example, with a movie in development and having meetings with agents, producers, so forth and so on, What is going on there? I mean, I don't expect you to tell the details and the secrets, but they talk about like production. Um, it's affecting everything,
Yeah.
but I still think in the next couple years or the next year and a half, I think production is going to, resume. I do. Okay, so are you thinking of writing another book, a sequel?
Well, it's meant to be, yeah, it was meant to be a trilogy. So I am,
Okay.
yeah, I am planning a sequel, yes. It's in process, in the planning stage. And I'm putting together different vignettes that will end up becoming the cohesive novel. I don't use an outline. Many
Mhm.
people do when they write. I don't. I kind of let it flow.
That's
I
good.
and could I once I get going, then it just starts happening. And I think that that's more fun. I think I have a feeling that the reader can feel that it wasn't planned. It just
Right,
flows
right. They can
uh,
live it.
when it comes alive, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
So that is a plan to do a sequel, but it's, you know,
So you're writing pieces and snippets and vignettes, like a collage, and then you will put
that's
them
that's
together.
what's happening at the moment because I've had so many hundreds and hundreds of fascinating things happen to me in the course of doing cases and meeting clients and dealing with other lawyers and dealing with the courts and dealing with judges, that they're all fascinating and interesting and even devastating. I'm putting down many of them and seeing what will go together to
Mhm.
make a cohesive new story that will be pick up where this one left off
Yeah,
because it did leave off in a way that we still want to see what happens to a couple people.
absolutely, absolutely.
Jim, Jim, I have a question. So you decided to go to law school, obviously. You became a lawyer. What made you decide to be that courtroom attorney who's fighting for the justice of his client? Because we know not all attorneys are like that.
Good question.
No, there aren't that many that are trial animals that actually do a lot of trials and it's kind of strange really because I've always been a pretty reserved, pretty shy person and would I was going to be a doctor. My dad was a doctor, my mother was a nurse. I put myself through school because they got divorced and were not able to help me because of my dad's condition and so I just was gonna, but I thought I wanted to be a doctor. And it wasn't until I was senior in college that I said, no, I don't want to be a doctor. And I only took the LSAT just because I didn't know what else to do. And I happened to get a high score. So I happened to go to law school. And I didn't plan, I didn't even know what a trial lawyer was. Um, I got, I got lucky because I just sent out 150 letters to 150 law firms trying to find a job when I was in law school so I could continue to go to law school. And a couple of the firms that responded happened to be top trial firms. I didn't even know what that was,
Amazing.
but I got a job with one of them, turned out to be one of the best in the country, luckily for me, and I loved it. It just clicked. And because I love medicine, that everybody that I deal with usually is injured.
Oh,
And,
I see.
and I also do a lot of medical malpractice. And so therefore
Okay.
I understand medicine. I love medicine. So it
Yes,
was a natural thing for me to kind of go into that area as well. And so
yes.
it just became something that it happened, and I found that if I prepared carefully, that I could actually stand up in front of people and present a case.
I love it.
That is perfect. How does it feel, Jim? Are people from around the country writing you and contacting you and commenting on the book? Are you?
Yes. That's fascinating. I mean, people that I had don't know at all. Somebody wrote me from Canada. Somebody wrote me from England. Somebody wrote me from France, and and people from all over this country, and just saying how much they enjoyed the book and how it taught them something, which was what my goal was.
Mhm.
What makes lawyers like me tick? What motivates us? What are our passions? What are our fears? What are our worries? What kind of what drives us? You know, and how do we make the decisions we make, and what are the consequences? And they got that. That's what people got, and that's fascinating to hear that. Not just from trial lawyers that like it also because it's real,
Mhm.
but lay people that are learning something about what we do and why we do it and the reason those people out there that need us.
And you took so much risk and you take so much risk and that fight for justice. And we know now from Black Lives Matter and what's happened, how much it does take to support and fight for justice for all, not just for some. So you have a double whammy, really, being a lawyer, a trial lawyer, and also fighting for that justice. And I think that's what the book says too. I have one other question. Now you don't have to answer this. Okay, you know I talk a lot about ageism as an 83-year-old woman who wants to be a movie star. I think, I mean, I don't know how old you are. To me, you're ageless, and I don't really think numbers are important. It's who we are. The number is not important. That's a fallacy. But how how does it feel at the middle part of your life with these two professions now? You know, one is a novelist in demand. Another book will have to come out. When the movie comes out, you'll be even in more demand for more books. So, do you believe that everything is possible at any age? Is that your philosophy?
Well, that's certainly what I'm learning. Oh yeah, I just, well, you know, Barbara, it's not what your chronological age is.
Right,
It's
right.
where you are in your head. It's how old you feel.
So,
And there's parts of me that are still 16, you know, and maybe that will probably never change. But I still feel like a 30 or 40-year old. I'm well into my 70s, and I feel like I'm just starting into middle age. I think middle age is maybe 80, so I'm just getting close.
mhm.
It, it's just anything is possible, and you know it's just like a case. You develop it, and it's a possibility until you make it something more. And age should not get in the way.
I
Uh,
want that sound bite. I want what you just said and put it on a poster on my wall because that is important. I think that ageism that's become a billion-dollar business and exploited shouldn't even be a topic. I mean, we're all going to have age, and it's such a gift, and we're just living our life, and who knows what the number is anyway. I mean, whether it's space time or what, but I love what you just said.
Jim, does your age ever affect you in the courtroom when you're coming up against a younger attorney who thinks that, of course, they know it all, um, and they look at you and I've had this happen to myself. I've had younger podcasters call me and say, "You shouldn't be doing this anymore. Why don't you retire?" And I know more than you do because, I grew up with a computer in my crib. Um, so do you ever get that feeling that, those younger attorneys are trying to push you out the door?
oh, I get the feeling they're trying to push me out the door all the time, but that's the nature of the adversarial world. Whether they're younger than me or older than me, they're trying to push me out the door. That's the
Okay.
job.
competition, and
But
particularly as a novelist too.
absolutely. I mean, their
Oh,
job, it's an adversarial system, and so their job is to try to beat me. I mean,
mhm.
and every case is a final exam. It's your thesis for the degree you're getting at that moment in time. Um, and somebody wins, somebody loses.
Mhm.
But I, and do they know more about computers? Oh yes, that's why I have my son sit there with me, who is a brilliant young lawyer, and he does the computer stuff,
Oh, that's
and I get to concentrate on fooling the young man that doesn't have quite as much experience as I do.
I love it. I love it.
exactly
The
that
experience
is
overcomes some of that other stuff.
that is so perfect.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear the next segment of your life, of what's going to happen next. I predict that new things are going to happen, of course, with the jury system and, like you say, working out things. But with the novel, I can't wait to hear what's going to happen next, because I think, and I don't usually say this, I know a lot of authors and writers, and I love books and I love to read, but I think that everyone should read this novel, not only for the you won't put it down aspect, but for the message in there, which justice for all. And we can all give a little to justice, like you said. We must try to do that. And so, Jim, tell us where the book can be purchased and how people can get this book.
Well, it hopefully is in your local bookstore, and you certainly can go to your local bookstore and ask about it. And they're all just reopening, and many of them have been shut down, so they may not be up to date in their stock, but they can get it because it's distributed by Simon Schuster,
Mhm.
and so it can be obtained within a matter of days. Of course, it's available on Amazon, Kindle, or hardbound is sold out, unfortunately. Although they do say on Kindle that they have some used copies. I know that I went into my Barnes and Noble, and they still have some copies, hardbound, because they just reopened. So they still had some locally. And I know that I went into Sausalito Books by the Bay, one of my favorite bookstores,
Yes, she's great.
and Book Passage as well, also another favorite bookstore, and they have some as well in the Bay Area, uh, where we live, and but also you can get it on Audible. It actually has 400 reviews on Audible. I'm stunned. And I'm not sure it isn't because they like Roger Wayne's brilliant reading better than my book even, but the combination works out well.
It did come a lot, yes. I mean, it is important to have a good narrator.
A good narrator is fabulous. He does voices. He does the whole thing. It's fabulous.
I mean, it's amazing. It's truly amazing. Well, there's so much more to say, so many questions, but I know you don't have time. But is there something you would like to tell our listeners? Something that you want them to remember or to know in this podcast?
Yes, I think that if there's anything that any of us should leave with others, it's that we need to take advantage of this terrible thing we're going through.
Mhm.
Um, and we need to, it's a time for rebirth, because it's giving us, we have to rethink so much, that why not take advantage of that? And anything is possible. I mean, if I can write a book, uh, then anything is possible, and actually have it be a novel that's successful. And we should look that way at this pandemic. We have, we're talking to the courts, and we're talking to other lawyers, and we're all coming together and finding ways to deal with this. And we've never talked that way with each other, and the courts haven't relied on the lawyers as much as they are. and we haven't had as good a communication with each other because we all need each other and we need to solve this problem for the justice system. And that's just one aspect of our society. We have this terrible things that happened with George Floyd has galvanized the thinking around our country. It's an opportunity for us to rethink how we value our history and how we look to treat each other differently and how we put historical mistakes in perspective
Yes.
and make our lives better. And this is, it's a terrible time, but it's a golden opportunity, I think, if we open ourselves up for that.
I think that's very important what you said, because we've all been watching murders and lynchings on TV, live ones. And what you just said is so important for all of us to connect and to make it better. Jim, thank you so much for your time and the conversation. And I can't wait to see the movie, and I can't wait to read the next book, which I'm sure is coming.
Well, thank you, Barbara.
Thank
And I
you.
can't wait to read
Thank you,
your
Karen.
book.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
We want
Bye.
Barbara, I want to thank you and Jim for a great podcast today. And could you tell everybody how they can reach you?
They can reach me by www.barbararosebrooker.com. My website has everything on it. Podcasts, TV appearances, books, everything.
And they can learn about you being on the new Bachelor in the future.
Oh God. Oh God, do I have to talk about that? Well, if they want to see the Inside Edition segment, it's on my website. And I'm the only 83-year-old in history who's been auditioned as a candidate for the new senior Bachelor show, holding the rose and the whole thing.
Well,
I won't say anything more. It's really a funny,
Well, we're excited about it because just like Jim said, anything is possible. So think of the word impossible. It
Mhm.
means I'm possible.
I like that.
Yes, I
Let's
like
go
I
that.
like that. Matt said that. I like that. Anything's possible. It's a
Yeah.
possibility. Yeah.
Absolutely. Have a great day, everybody.
Everybody, thank you. Bye, Karen.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Karen. Bye, Barbara.